After 7 straight weeks of talking about each class in the game, it's finally coming to an end, with the class that seems to be behind each and every class's problem, the assassin class. In this video, we'll talk about what exactly an assassin is, and how Brawl Stars defines them, seeing which assassins fit and which don't. Then we'll take a look at the class as a whole, and talk about some of the problems that this class has been causing, especially towards the other classes in the game. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to keep up with my videos. Second, join our Discord server. We have some fun stuff to do there, like our very own 1v1 ranked called Gauntlet. Third, consider becoming a channel member if you're interested in supporting out the channel and have ample disposable income for some cool perks, like watching videos early or getting to decide on future video ideas. Finally, if you like the music in the video, it's actually all made by me, so check out my second channel for more music. As always, let's start out with the definition of the assassin class. Assassins are brawlers with high mobility, able to get to targets quickly. They have low health, which is interesting, and so much rely on good dodging and being generally smart. They're strong against marksmen and artillery while being weak against damage dealers and tanks. This is a very interesting definition that we'll definitely come back to when looking at each of the assassins, and as for the definition itself, I would have to add these guys are best against singular brawlers. They focus on one brawler, dive in, take them out, and get out, constantly making the targeted brawler's life a hell. They should, at least, not be able to team wipe, not without an insane amount of skill and good circumstances. Finally, they should also be characterized by lots of passive play, waiting for the right moment, or super in some cases, and then having an explosive pop-off play. With that out of the way, let's get into the assassins in Brawl Stars. Starting off with Stu. This is a pretty curious one. He does fit pretty solidly into Brawl's definition, with high mobility, of course with his super, which he uses to quickly get in and assassinate brawlers, especially throwers, and get out. He also relies a bit on good dodging and is pretty difficult to play, as well as having pretty mediocre health. He doesn't play too similarly to some of the other assassins, as he does play at more of a long range, but his mobility is probably the main reason he's considered one. Next up is Edgar, and this is pretty obvious. He's basically a perfect example of an assassin, and fits almost perfectly into Brawl's definition of an assassin. He's all about diving in on someone like a thrower or marksman, killing them, and getting out ASAP. Now, Sam. This is an interesting case. He has a bit of a case for assassination, with his high mobility, the fact he does counter throwers and marksmen, and his magnetic field gadget. However, he also has a great case for being a tank. The amount of pressure he causes is extremely similar to that of a tank, and of course, considering his huge health and his healing star power, it doesn't really make sense for him to be considered an assassin over a tank, especially considering Brawl's definition of assassins having low health. Overall, I would say he deserves a hybrid classification between tank and assassins, but if I did have to choose one, I might have to go tank. Next up is Shade, and I think he fits pretty well into the assassination class. He fits all the matchups, especially against throwers, and his mobility is quite solid. However, he does have a bit of an argument for damage dealer, when you take into consideration his hypercharge, which gives huge damage potential. Next up is Mortis, and this is also pretty obvious. He's basically the perfect dive assassin, all about singling out a target, diving in, taking them out, and diving back out. However, he has started to lose a bit of his assassination qualities with his hypercharge and buffies, making him a bit too powerful, allowing him to team up with just a little bit of effort, which I will touch on more later. Buzz now, and this is an interesting one. Yes, his super is very assassin coded, especially with the whole stun mechanic. However, he does also have a great argument for tank. He plays quite similar to tanks like El Primo, Bull, and Daryl, though you could make an argument they're also kind of an assassin. And he would 100% be considered a tank, I think, if he had the tank trait instead of the supercharge trait. He creates tons of pressure, and his threat of the stun is similar to that of Bull and his Stomper gadget. And of course, it goes without saying, he has tons of health. Overall, I would say he's basically the perfect hybrid between an assassin and a tank. Next up is Fang, and he's an interesting case. He's pretty obviously an assassin, all about huge mobility, diving in, taking out enemies with his super, and having mostly passive gameplay otherwise. However, he is interesting in the fact that he, 1, has quite a big health, and more importantly, 2, can team wipe pretty easily. Yes, it isn't exactly traditional assassination, but still, he fits quite well, I still think, and most of his team wiping ability comes from the opposing team being at low health, and I think he fits much better into this class than any other class. Miko's next, and there's nothing too much to be said about him. He honestly fits quite perfectly, having good mobility and all about being taking down a single brawler, moving in and moving out quickly. His matchups also fit quite nicely, being great against throwers and marksmen, but being quite bad against damage dealers, and tanks especially. Melody's up next, and yeah, most of the same points just apply with her. She has great mobility, and uses that mobility to assassinate enemies and get back out. You could make an argument for damage dealer, considering how crazy she is in Heist, but one game mode shouldn't decide her classification. Lily's up next, and yes, she's quite perfect for assassination, nothing much more for me to say. Allie is up next, and she's also pretty perfect for assassination. She's extremely matchup reliant and has the mobility and the stats of an assassin. What's especially interesting about her is that she gets faster the lower the opponent's health is, so that's especially good for her assassination classification, allowing her to seek out lower health brawlers and destroy them. Gigi's up next, and well, I just made a whole PowerPoint about her and her classification, so check that out. But anyways, while she does play like an assassin, she actually has pretty contradictory matchups, such as getting countered by throwers while countering damage dealers. She also has a good argument for the damage dealer class, as she has huge damage potential, especially considering her super and her hypercharge. She can literally take down tanks like Frank in the right situations, so I would say she's a hybrid between assassin and damage dealer. Crow's up next, and he's a confusing one. His assassination comes mainly from his super. However, his super is rarely used unless there's a perfect opportunity. Most of his gameplay is around him using his main attack to chip down enemies. He has a solid argument for controller, with his main attack and its ability to lower enemy healing, as well as his slow gadget. Overall, however, he doesn't have a great argument to fit in any class in my opinion, and would fit perfectly into a potential hybrid class. Leon's up next, and he's a pretty good fit for the assassination class. He's all about sneaking up to enemies and assassinating them, though unlike someone like Fang, who does that by using a movement tool, Leon uses his invisibility mechanic to get to enemies. Cordelia's up next, and he's basically the perfect assassin. His super literally gives him a free 1v1, and if this isn't assassination, I don't know what is. Against him though, he is a bit of an anti-tank, and he doesn't have any crazy mobility tools. But to me, he still fits best into the assassin class. Kenji now, and this will be fun. Yes, he definitely has assassination in his kit. His mobility is solid, and his super is definitely very assassin coded. However, when looking at his gameplay, is he really an assassin? He creates way too much pressure for a regular assassin, especially considering Prime Kenji, and his super is best used on the entire team and not really one person. He also can win pretty solid against tanks with super farming. And also take into consideration, he heals with every shot, his shield, and his overall health. And honestly, I think he's more of a hybrid of a tank and an assassin. Finally, Kaze. Her geisha form is pretty similar to Kenji, and isn't too great of an assassin. But her ninja form, true to the name, is the perfect assassin. The super is great for quickly taking someone down and getting far away at the same exact time. And her main attack forces her to stay closer to enemies to get the full value of them. And with that, we're done with the assassin class. Overall, the assassin class has a few guys who don't deserve the classification. Mostly, the classification isn't the problem with this class. So, what is the problem with this class? First of all, the sheer amount of assassins in the game. If we take a look at the last 8 brawler releases, an astounding 3 of them are assassins. Keep in mind, there are 7 brawler classes in the game. Having more than 2 of any class in the last 8 brawler releases is insane. Brawlstars said they have their reasons for this, as assassins are the most popular class apparently. Well, why not try to make the other classes in the game more famous? But anyway, this leads to a pretty big problem. See, there are currently an insane 17 assassins in the game. In comparison, the marksman class has only 11 brawlers, and a measly 7 in the thrower class. In ladder, this means that more often than not, picking one of these two classes is suddenly a very risky play, since you're likely to face off against an assassin. And of course, an assassin will make your life an absolute hell, especially if you're a thrower. Even in ranked, you basically can't pick a thrower or marksman other than last pick, or you're gonna get screwed over unless it's the perfect map for them. And nowadays, with the sheer amount of assassins, even banning some can't help your problem, as another 10 are ready to be chosen. So yeah, it's pretty cooked. And if that wasn't bad enough, the assassins of today are simply just too strong. This all comes back to the rise of anti-tanks. We've seen tons of anti-tank metas recently, from Gale to Mina to Ems currently. Most anti-tanks also counter assassins, and so, how are assassins supposed to compete? Well, by getting stronger. Nowadays, assassins are simply just too strong than they should be. Honestly, it seems like even half of the assassin class can do well against tanks and passable against damage dealers. Assassins who used to be exclusively dive brawlers are now gaining access to more and more tank-like pressuring abilities, case in point being Kenji. And of course, the hypercharge problem. Hypercharges for assassins seem to be even more broken than usual. I mean, look at Prime Kenjis, Mortises, Edgar, Stews, Sam, Shade, Buzz, Fang, Crow, Leon, and you get the point. Since assassins usually are able to get kills the easiest out of every class, they have to make the hypercharge extra incentivizing. And how did they do that? More damage and more team wiping ability. Someone like Shade, Mortis, and Kenji, who used to find it very difficult to team wipe, could now team wipe with relative ease, at least in the prime of their hypers. Being able to team wipe shouldn't be easy for an assassin, and basically goes against everything an assassin should be. Overall, it's clear that the assassins are the favorite child of Brawl Stars. With the sheer amount of them we're getting, their balancing, especially considering their hypercharges and their meta status over the past few seasons, it's no wonder there's such a problem. The marksman and thrower class have been suffering as a result, and are responding in their own way, becoming generalists. So it's sort of an arms race at this point, and at the end of the day, nobody really wins from this sort of Cold War. This series has been quite fun for me, so it's a shame it's ending and I have to come up with original content ideas again. Jokes aside, I might do a few more classes videos before fully abandoning them. And of course, we can't forget about the complete restructuring of the class system, which may or may not come out next month. And thanks to Narcissist for helping out with the video, and as always, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.